Alright, good afternoon everybody, it's your boy Akeem. Welcome to today's vlogs. Here to give you a couple of scout reports for today on players headed towards the 2015 NFL Draft. For this vlog, I'm here to talk about inside linebacker A.J. Johnson coming out of Tennessee. Now he's hailing from Gainesville, Georgia, and he was a great player coming out of high school, and he was even an even better player as the Tennessee Volunteers. He's actually one of 4 players to accumulate over 400 tackles throughout his career. What a brilliant career that he did had, earning all SEC honors in 2012 and 2013. But during this offseason, and even as a senior, his stock dropped drastically entering this year's draft, and he reminds me a little bit of a particular player who I will talk about later on in this particular blog. But first and foremost, let's talk about his strengths and weaknesses. First, his strengths. He actually has good interactions and good awareness to find out who has the ball, who is the ball carrier, and get to the football. Posted over 100 tackles in consecutive seasons, and he, like I said, all SEC conference, definitely does a good job getting awareness to the football and attacking to the football. Another thing I do like about him is that he doesn't bid too much into play action fakes. He can even step back into coverage, and he does a pretty good job not bidding too much into fakes. That is a good trait about him. And lastly, he was actually a core in special teams. That shows him that he's a little bit versatile, and he can be used in different areas in the football field, even in special teams. He can even be a star in special teams for any team in the National Football League. But I do see him potentially becoming a starter. But he does have a lot of weaknesses, and he has a lot of things that actually force his stock to drop drastically. And I think he might not even be selected in this year's draft. Now, talking about his weaknesses, his lateral movement. One thing I noticed is that his lateral movement is not really up to par. Secondly, he is a long strider, meaning that it takes a couple of too many steps to increase his speed and get to his top speed. That is a concern because of the NFL is more quicker and people have quick feet. Players, or the skilled players, have a lot of quick feet and quick movements. I don't think he's going to be able to keep up with that. But as far as long strides, he definitely has a good angle tackler and going on long distances. But as far as like shifting his hips, that's another weakness that he has. He definitely has weak hips. He doesn't have too much fluidity in his hips, and like I mentioned before, the lateral movement is a concern. Now also, he can sometimes lose leverage when linemen actually get to the second level and second level blocks blocking him. He does need to do a better job lowering his shoulder and not having his shoulder turned away from the play. I did notice that during his stay at Tennessee that he still needs to work on. And lastly, the off the field issue. Now, during the 2014 season, he was actually accused in November of rape of a 19-year-old, and he was actually suspended for the remainder of the season. That is a major concern, and he's actually, I believe, 2 accounts of rape during this offseason, and I think that teams are definitely are scared and are actually pulling away from this guy. And he kind of reminds me a lot of Vontaze Burfict out of the Cincinnati Bengals. That's the comparison I like to compare him to. Vontaze Burfict was a talented player coming out of Arizona State, but then because of off-the-field issues and disagreements with coaches, he actually became a free agent and was not drafted, which was a shocker. Now, he did sign a multi-million-dollar contract I think a couple of years, not this past season, but the previous year. But I'm still concerned about Vontaze Burfict, and as go along with A.J. Johnson. Both these 2 players are talented. Now, A.J. Johnson does have the lateral movements that he does need to work on, and shifting his body a little bit and hip fluidity. But that off-the-field issue with rape charges, especially with the Ray Rice case, Adrian Peterson hitting his child, all of these issues is actually scaring a lot of teams away, and I actually project him not being drafted in this year's draft. At best, a 7th round selection, but something is telling me that he's not going to be drafted because he's dealing with 2 accounts of rape charges, and I think this was a big major issue that definitely would boost him out of his draft status. Now the next time I'm going to catch you guys will be later on today. I have a couple more blogs for you guys, as well as I'm going to talk about pick number 32 of this year's draft belonging to the New England Patriots. Thank you for watching today's vlog. I'm your man, Akeem McCall. Be easy.